This is your time, this is your day. You've got it all. Don't blow it away. So sings Paul McCartney on the accompanying song on the film soundtrack of the same name, Vanilla Sky, working as kind of a plea to the main character, David Ames, played by Tom Cruise. In Vanilla Sky, this is today's review. This is an on-demand review. This request comes from two subscribers of mine, actually. The Movie Dude 0123 and Link Biff, both good friends of the channel. Thanks for this recommendation, guys. I was actually really excited to watch this movie again because I hadn't seen it in so long. Probably, we're talking 6 or 7 years or so. But there was a time when I was, really obsessed with this movie. I was watching it so much. On, the same level, I was watching Almost Famous over and over again, when it first came to video. There's always something new I could take out of it. And in that kind of time frame, the mid-90s to early 2000s, Cameron Crowe, he's in a real sweet spot and coming out with hit after hit, acclaimed movie after acclaimed movie. And if you kind of want to look at his movies as, say musical genres, Jerry Maguire, of course, you kind of look at as easy listening, easy rock, light rock, however you want to put it. Something that most people can enjoy. Your grandma could watch Jerry Maguire and probably enjoy it. Same, I'd say, with Almost Famous, but of course, classic rock, something that appeals to a great many. Vanilla Sky, however, probably you'll call it alt rock, alternative, something like that. Not everyone's going to love it. In fact, I think a lot of people don't like this movie. I think it has kind of a divisive reputation to it, where some say it's one of the worst movies ever, but I'll say right now I disagree with that. But definitely kind of an alt-rock kind of thing, and even in its soundtrack kind of reflects that. There's a lot of alternative rock in the movie. Sugar Rose, Radiohead, Donovan on the soundtrack, r.e.m, the gods of alt-rock. Two r.e.m songs in this movie, actually. Sweetness Follows from their album Automatic for the People, and a new song that was recorded for the movie All the Right Friends. Well, it was originally, sang in concerts and stuff, but not officially recorded until this movie's soundtrack came out. Music geek moment. But anyway, that's a good song too. All the Right Friends, and look it up. Look up All the Right Friends by r.e.m and Mega Man 2. It's the same music. Anyway, the movie itself, I think it holds up very well. And all these years later, I probably hadn't seen it in 6 or 7 years. There's still things I feel I can take from it. It's still a new experience. But it is kind of hard to talk about the movie without going into heavy spoilers. So I'll say, going forward, spoilers. In this review, kind of the short version is, check it out. It's a good movie. Decide for yourself if you like it or not. But the movie, it is essentially Tom Cruise's dream, where we learn in the ending that he's this big magazine mogul. His parents died in a tragic accident, left him the whole company, the whole fortune at a very young age, and he's just kind of been recklessly going through life, and a series of events leads him to commit suicide, and he's in suspended animation. He's frozen in cryogenic goo, I don't know, like Austin Powers, basically, and he's waiting to be resurrected, so to speak. But within this state, within this suspended animated state, he has dreams. In fact, it's a service offered by this company called Life Extension, and then it's renamed the Oasis Project, but never mind, where you can have a lucid dream. Anything you want, will be your dream. And that's kind of what we see in this movie. It's a dream almost as a form of entertainment, which I think is very interesting, because that's kind of what dreams are in a weird way. They are these entertaining things, these very revealing things about ourselves. So I think in viewing this movie, it's like an intimate look at someone's life, both a part of a dream, basically the dream, the movie as a whole, it's kind of two halves, where he dreams of his real life up to a certain point, up to right before his death, and then the rest is the dream, and then things start to go wrong, and he starts to realize what's going on, things like that. So I think that's very revealing in kind of what it shows about someone's life, and having a dream as this form of entertainment. Movies themselves, they are like dreams. They kind of show us this unreal version of what supposedly is real. In dreams feel sort of like real life in a weird way, but not. Things, depending on how much control you have, things are better than they could be, or maybe not. Maybe a dream is just like a very normal feeling thing, but then you wake up and you feel different. I don't know, you can have a dream and you can kind of come out of it with something very profound, I think. So I think that's an endlessly fascinating thing about dreams, and that's kind of, what movies have always been trying to do since the very beginning. They've been trying to capture what we see in our dreams, like, what was that movie? In Chien Andalou, which they, like, cut open the eye. You ever see that movie? It was, like, crazy French director. I forget the director's name. He's like, I want to make it seem like a dream, whatever. But this movie is a whole dream, and it does kind of reach a point where it is this kind of like mind fuck kind of thing, where I mean, I guess it's the best thing you can call, like, a mind fuck kind of movie. And in the early 2000s, those were like really prominent, like, Memento, Mulholland Drive, The Machinist, kind of movies like that, where it kind of tests the boundaries of reality. What is a dream? What isn't? This one most certainly is a dream, or is it? I mean, do we take what we learn at the end at face value? I don't know, but I think it presents itself in a way that can be interpreted in any number of ways, which I think is a sign of a good movie ultimately. And I do think it's entertaining in that sense, and just in a general sense, I think it's a good romantic drama, I guess is the best way you can put it, and a tragedy, really. Like, this character being this kind of reckless rich kid, has all the money in the world. He's very good looking. He's Tom Cruise, basically. It's like he has pretty much everything he could want. His life is a dream, and kind of the funny thing about the movie is, like, there's little hints of it being a dream, kind of almost like in jokes, where, like, he's like, yeah, I'm living the dream, and she's my dream girl, and someone has a cell phone ringtone that's row, row, row your boat, life is but a dream. So there's little stuff like that, little hints and in jokes, and the movie basically, it's framed in a way where, of course, if we're watching it for the first time, we don't realize it's a dream, but it's framed in a way where David Ames, this character, he's in this mask, and he's in a prison cell, and he's speaking to this very Atticus Finch-like character. He's very compassionate and very concerned about the character, wants to find out what's going on. He is not an attorney, however, he is a psychologist, and he's trying to penetrate David's mind, basically. And there's been a murder, and we kind of don't know what's going on, so it kind of flashes back and forth. It's all David's recollection. So within this dream, he's recollecting on real life, so we kind of see it unfold as such. And like, one of the most, talked about scenes of the movie is like the very first scene where we, like, see Times Square in New York City completely barren, and Tom Cruise, like, looking up and screaming and things like that. And these days you could probably do that with, like, CGI, but they did it for real in this movie. I mean, if this movie accomplished nothing else for you, it did that. They wouldn't do that for many people, but they'll do that for a Tom Cruise movie, that's for sure. But it has very vivid imagery like that. And I mean, as this romance movie, I think, it is very much like a dream. Again, movies, they're like dreams. They show romance as we all kind of think it should be. And of course, there's this very wonderful moment. David Ames, he meets Sofia Serrano at a party. She's Penelope Cruz, and they have this night together. They don't have sex. They really connect on a real personal level, and they fall in love, and they come out of this wonderful night together, this wonderful revelation of each of themselves, with this new lease on life, which is a magical thing. He says, I had this buzz from her, everything was going to be okay. And you do kind of buy that scene. It's a sweet scene. They have, like, the Peter Gabriel playing in the background, and they do cute things, and they draw each other, or whatever, but it's good, you buy it. And that's a crucial scene in the movie. You kind of have to buy that romance, which is easy to do. I mean, for one thing, Penelope Cruz, she's never been as beautiful as she is in this movie, in my opinion. I mean, she's just absolutely gorgeous. It is easy to see why there was kind of this, off-screen romance between her and Tom Cruise, which, is very evident in the movie. And, not a lot of people talk about, like, Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise dating. They dated for a long time, but I guess because, like, right after it, the whole Katie Holmes thing, jumping on a couch, and Tomcat and Surrey Cruise and all that shit. But, they dated for, like, 2 or 3 years or so. Then, she went off to win an Oscar shortly after, which is kind of cool. In fact, so did Nicole Kidman, like, after she divorced Tom Cruise. So I think if you date Tom Cruise and then break up with him, you're going to win an Oscar. Nicole Kidman won for The Hours. Penelope Cruz one for Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Might not happen for Katie Holmes anytime soon, but you never know. At the very least, there'll be a Dawson's Creek reunion sometime soon, so that might be nice. But anyway, Penelope Cruz, she's this great character, very charming, and I guess you could kind of call her like the manic pixie dream girl of the movie, which, I mean, she sort of is, admittedly, but the movie, it is a dream, so I guess maybe you can kind of let it go, but anyway, they connect, and it's this great love story. It is a great love story, but unfortunately it's also a love tragedy. It's a romantic tragedy. It's it shows consequences of this character's actions, where in leading this reckless super rich kid blues life, he is sort of seeing, but not really officially dating, the character played by Cameron Diaz, Julie Gianni, who's kind of the struggling actress and musician, and kind of treating her as disposable, where he has a conversation with a friend of his, Jason Lee, who's kind of writing this story or this novel about rejection and dating and romance and love and sweet and sour and all that stuff, but he refers to her as a fuck buddy, basically, where he's just, Julie's my friend and sometimes we have sex, it's cool, don't worry, nothing bad'll happen. Meanwhile, she's like basically psychotic, and after he meets with Sophia, she's stalking him. She convinces him to get in her car, and she lets out the whole confession and drives right off a bridge, and boom, she kills herself and leaves him horribly disfigured, hence the mask. But I wouldn't say that necessarily is the tragedy of the movie. It is about this character who, in a very real way, deals with the guilt of that. So it's not just like, oh, what a crazy bitch. There's a real guilt to how he feels about how he did treat her. There's a great moment between him and Kurt Russell where he has the mask on, but you can see like everything in his eyes. He's like, you treated Julie recklessly, didn't you? And he just kind of slowly nods to it. And I think that's very effective. And when basically, I mean, the splice of the dream meeting real life, like this LE life extension thing, it erases your death from your memory and continues your life as a dream. So we see his life not just up to that point, but a little bit after, where he is disfigured and he finally is unable to cope with not just the pain of his headache, but also just not being able to reconnect with Sophia. So he kills himself there, but that's erased, so we see kind of it picking up from when he's drunk at a club and passes out in the street, and the real dream starts. Sophia meets him in the street, says, "You got to pull yourself together," and they start their life together. He gets reconstructive surgery. He's all good, and merrily life is but a dream. So after that, everything should be great, but it does begin to turn into a nightmare, and he has a hard time distinguishing Sophia from Julie. So there is this kind of suture of the two characters where one moment it'll be Cameron Diaz, one moment it'll be Penelope Cruz. And there's this one really intense scene where like she beats him up as Cameron Diaz in her apartment, and he's like looking at pictures that used to be Penelope Cruz. He's like, "What is going on?" And she grabs him, and then he looks again, and it's Penelope Cruz. Is like, "Oh, I love you, baby." And then they go into the bedroom, they're having sex, and then Cameron turns away again, and Penelope Cruz turns into Cameron Diaz again, and then you can like see like a vein throbbing in Tom Cruise's head mid-coitus, and he's like, "I don't know what's going on." Then like crazy music is playing, like quick flashes of surreal imagery, and that's when the murder of the movie occurs. And I think that's one, a very intense scene, but two, the movie doesn't let this character off easily, and it does show very real guilt, and I think that's kind of why he kind of mixes these two together. So in a sense, you can say that Cameron Diaz, Julie Gianni, she represents his reckless ways of life, the life that he treated so carelessly. But with the Penelope Cruz character, she represents the dream, everything that could be in life. And there are, real people like that in real life, and there are dreams like that, and there are realizations that people come to through relationships, through dreams, and There's a very interesting line in the movie. Again, Kurt Russell delivers it. Sometimes the mind does act like a dream. Faces change, people change, and we have a hard time distinguishing it. So I think there's some truth to that. I think there's actually a very real truth to that, and I'll give you an example of that. I've seen this movie maybe 20 times. Every time I've seen it, I feel I know it pretty well. Watching it again this time, I'm completely getting off the track here, but watching it this time, there's a very small character in the movie, a security guard in the prison where David Ames is being held, and he has like 2 lines, just like, "Shut the fuck up, rich kid," or whatever. And I'm looking at, is that Michael Shannon? And yes, it is Michael Shannon, General Zod. He's in the movie as a very small part, kind of like right before 8 Mile, I guess, was kind of the first movie I can recognize him in. But it's an interesting thing. This movie that I thought I knew so well, suddenly the faces change. This faceless security guard, all of a sudden, watching it again, is Michael Shannon. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of amusing to see him. So at one point it was like this minor part by an actor that no one knew. Now it feels almost like this cool cameo, which is, I think, is kind of cool. In fact, there are actually a few cameos in the movie, some interesting ones. Johnny Galecki is in the movie. He plays David Ames' assistant, and at the time I remember thinking, wow, man, times have hit hard after Roseanne, right? Well, meanwhile now Johnny Galecki's like on the biggest sitcom of all time, Big Bang Theory. Steven Spielberg has a very small scene in the movie where he shows up at a party as a party guest, and Conan O'Brien plays actually kind of sort of an important role in the movie in a weird kind of way. So I thought that all was kind of cool. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling more. So I don't know. My reviews are a lot like dreams. They don't really follow a narrative, do they? But the tragedy of the movie, the great tragedy, is that this woman, this Sophia character, who is this character's, David Ames, his savior, this great love of his life and his dreams, taking all into account, what the supposed reality of the movie is, that he's in suspended animation for 150 years. This great love who's changed his whole life. Who's painted the landscape of his dreams, his dream life, and all his hopes and everything he wants out of life. She's long dead. And so there's a very emotional moment at the end where, before waking up, he's like, is there any one last thing you want? Like, let them read my mind. She appears, they embrace, and there's a great line. I'm frozen, you're dead, and I love you. I'll see you in another life when we are both cats. I don't know. I think it's kind of a sweet moment between the characters. If you do want to take it that way, like if you do take it kind of as its face value, and that this is kind of this science fiction movie. But there are other theories about what the movie could be. One, you can take it at that face value. Two, it could just be a dream. And maybe some of it is, in fact, this character's real life, and some of it is this nightmare, and you can kind of take it that way, and it's just straight up dream. Maybe he'll wake up in his apartment, and everything will have changed, which I think is an interesting interpretation. Another one that's kind of cool is a lot of people suppose it to be Brian, the Jason Lee character, his book. Like there's a whole subplot about him like writing this book, so it could very well be that as well. But, it is open to interpretation. So I think that's a sign of a good movie. You can kind of interpret it different ways. Take out of it certain things. I do feel that dreams in general are just a fascinating thing. And I think in being the subject of this film, we get a fascinating film out of it. Again, a very intimate kind of look into this character's innermost desires, innermost thoughts, and his most vulnerable areas of someone who's, this rich, powerful kind of person. So I thought that was all very well executed, and I think it is one of Tom Cruise's best roles. I think he gives a terrific performance. He's excellent in this movie, one of his very best. Penelope Cruz as well, and even Cameron Diaz. I mean, aside from There's Something About Mary, I think this is actually her best role. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for it, actually, Best Supporting Actress, so that's kind of cool. And one of Cameron Crowe's bests. Definitely, again, the trifecta. I think, his sweet spot definitely was Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous, and Vanilla Sky. So I am very glad to have revisited it, and still very much like the movie, because, I mean, movies, in a certain way, they stay the same, but, you know, we grow and become different as people. So, I mean, particularly a movie like this, where it's not just like, you know, let's say like any action movie like Rambo or whatever. I mean, that's going to stay the same pretty much as you grow into your life. But a more abstract, kind of risky movie like this one is, it could very well not work if, you know, I've changed as a person, or I would hope I have in the last couple of years, but I still enjoy the movie. I still take out of it quite a bit. I feel it does kind of reach profound levels, and in no way, shape, or form is this a bad movie. In my opinion, again, going back to the alt-rock kind of thing, it's not going to be for everyone. So I can understand in some ways why some people might not like it, but I think it's great. I think it's just about a masterpiece. I really do, and I think this will kind of be one of those movies that stays with me for just about ever. So I love it. Thank you very much, Movie Dude 0123 and Link Biff, for this recommendation. If you have a movie that you'd like me to review, please comment below. Let me know. I'm going to put a link to my website. I have actually a list of all the movies I've reviewed. So if you want to take a look through that and say, I don't see this movie on here, comment below on demand. Tell me what to review. So please comment below. That's my review of Vanilla Sky. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com. And until next time, I'll see you later.